And we're back. It's been a nice break. At least it's been nice for me. Actually, I've been really busy with other stuff. Not that there's many things more important than doing these screencasts, of course. Anyway, I'm still Rob Miles. If you're still with me, wave at the back. Oh, great. Yeah, keep waving. Jolly good. Actually, I can't see you at all. This is all lies. But anyway, my name's Rob Miles. I'm still writing games with C# and XNA, and this time we're looking at playing sounds. We've done images. Now we're going to do sounds. Sounds add an awful lot to a game. They make it an awful lot betterer. Just a few sounds and the game suddenly becomes a lot more interesting. And so now we're going to find out how we would do this. We know we can add fonts and images to the content resources for an XNA game, and we do this using the load content method in our program, which basically goes off and fetches the stuff. Now we're going to add some sound, and surprise, surprise, or maybe not, the way we do this is pretty much exactly the same as we do it, use images and other bits and pieces as well. This is actually reflecting good design on the part of the Microsoft bods that made XNA, because they've said, okay, content is content, let's treat it all at a top level as stuff, and then we'll actually deal with the stuff in its specifics when we bring it in. So we load the sound in, it's content just like graphics. We then have methods we can call on the sound effects we've loaded so we can make them play themselves. And a whole bunch of classes and methods, which are these lumps of code and building blocks, are provided to allow us to do this. And so there you go. If I'm adding content, we've done this before a couple of times now with pictures and with fonts, then one thing I want to do now though is it's actually rather different and special and interesting-ish. I'm going to make a folder. Folders are great. You probably use those on your Windows PC or whatever to organize things into chunks. You'll have a folder called Christmas Party, and you put all the stuff about the Christmas party in there, the invites, the pictures, the menu, the receipts, whatever. So human beings like using things like folders. So does XNA. In fact, what I did when I was making my next little XNA game is I thought, okay, I'll put all the sound in a folder called sound. If you look at making content, you can make an item, you can load an existing piece of asset, existing sound or picture, or you can make a new folder. We're going to make a folder and call it sound. So if I do the add thing, then pick new folder from what pops up next. Remember to do this, you right click on content, this pops up, you then click on add, this pops up, then you click new folder, and at this point you're picking the name for your nice new folder. By default it's given the fairly uninspirational name new folder 1, so we can call that sound just by typing in the word sound and pressing enter. And at that point we have a folder called sound. We can treat it like any other content container. We could even make folders inside folders if we were very, very organized. We could have sound, we could have music sound, and sound effects sound if we wanted to, but for our purposes, sound works fine. I'll put the sound samples in there, I'll make another folder called images that holds the pictures, and then I'm away. It all just works. Isn't it wonderful? Isn't life wonderful? I'm in a very upbeat mood tonight, not quite sure why, but there you go. So, there you go. Excuse me. That's my sounds in a folder called sounds, and the only bit I have to bear in mind is that once I put something in a folder, I do have to tell the content manager to go and look in there when I'm loading it up. But we'll do that in a minute or two, and it's not difficult. It's actually very, very easy. So we're good, we're sorted, everything is golden, and away we go. I can now add, now again, I've got my sound effects. I actually went out and recorded some drums for this to make my little drum pad. And so these are all existing sound effects. They're in a format called WAV, which you may have heard of before. WAV is like an uncompressed WAV file. It's a Microsoft sound format that the PC has been supporting for absolutely years. You may have heard of MP3s. MP3 is a kind of file format which also holds sound, but holds it in a compressed way, which means that we can fit lots and lots of music on a very small portable device like an MP3 player. Now, Windows can play MP3 files. XNA, if I'm doing sound effects, needs these WAV files. So you have to find a tool that actually converts from MP3s and other things to WAV. There's a program called Audacity, which is very, very nice, and will do that for you. So if you go to audacity.com or just search for Audacity space sound, you can download this. It's got a nice pretty interface. You can fiddle around with waveforms, sample sound and play with it, or you can use the ones I've provided. I'll put those up on the web later on. And so as far as we're concerned, we've made some WAV files. I've got 4 of them: cymbal, ting, kick, snare and top, because I'm making a drum, and I've put those all in the sounds directory. Little tip: if you want a quick way of getting sound and other things into your solution, just drag them and drop them. If you drag a file out of a folder on your desktop or whatever and drop it into the folder in Solution Explorer, XNA will sort that out for you and make a copy of the file and put it in the right place, which is quite cute too. But as you can see here, what I've got is I've got four sound files in the sounds directory. So we're good to go. We now have our content already, and the content manager, of course, is going to look after all this and make sure that it all hangs together. Okay, but I have to have something in my program that actually holds the sound effects we're going to play, and I've got 4 variables here. The type we're going to use, these are sound effects, so I'm going to have a variable type called sound effect. This is provided as part of XNA. It's just there. We've seen textures, we've seen rectangles, we've seen fonts, we've seen strings, we've seen integers. Now we're seeing a sound effect type. And the nice thing is that we don't have to know anything about how it works. We just put stuff in it, and then away it goes. I load it just like I load everything else using the content.load method. I tell it what type I want. Yep, I want sound effect, please. And I give it a string which contains the name of the place where the sound effect lives. And as you can see, because it's in a folder, I have to put the folder name in front. So I'm going to put sounds and then a backslash and then the name of the file. Okay, so off it goes and gets it. And at that point, I've now got 4 sounds loaded and I'm good to go. To play a sound, easy peasy. It has a play method that just makes it play that sound instantly. That was quite good. Good at that. That's quite nice. I'm impressed with that. And so these sounds, you tend to play them in the update method. When you see the event that causes a sound to be played, you just call the play method on that sound. If you've got an explosion, which plays when 2 things collide, then you'll basically call the explode sound effect into life by playing that one when the time comes. And the delay between you saying play and it playing is absolutely tiny. That's because these sound effects are held in memory, and we don't have to load anything up. They're actually inside memory next to the program, ready and waiting to go, and they can be played really, really quickly. Bottom bullet point: XNA can play more than one sound at once. If you want to have an explosion and an engine noise and a missile going overhead and some background music, then XNA can do all that. The number of sound channels, you've got over 250 or so to play with on the Xbox, which is loads. I've not really ever had a problem running out of sound channels on the device. So yeah, just call the play method and the music plays. And let's have a look at my program called DrumPad, which will do this for me. So let's just go and take a look at this one and see if this is the one that I want. Let's just have a little look. Yep, this looks like a good one. So there are my sounds. You can see them on the right: cymbal, ting, kick, snare and top. And then down here in the load content method, there we go, that's the load behavior. I've actually got a picture of some drums. What the heck, just to make it look nice. So it's going to draw a nice drummy piece of clip art on the screen as well. And then if I drill down a bit further and take a look at my update method, here it is, then I'm looking for if we've pressed it and it used to be up. Remember the edge triggered stuff we fiddled around with when we were counting and trying to get scores and get games to work? Here I've got the same thing. I'm doing the same edge detection thing. If I detect that last time it was up and this time it's pressed, it's time to play the snare drum. So the snare drum's linked to button A, and the kick drum's linked to button B, and the cymbal ting's on X, and the top drum is on Y. And that's it. Run the game, and away we go. That's lovely clip art. Now I'm not sure if you ought to hear this very well. I'm going to just crank up the volume to the absolute maximum. Whoosh, there we go. So if you should be able to hear this okay now, people. And if I press A, I can also press the cymbals and the kick. If I press two buttons at once, hang on, those two sound quite good together. So you can get as rhythmic as you like on this, and it'll just keep on playing them, which is rather sweet. When I press the back button, of course, the game stops, and that's the end of that. So we've seen that we can actually pull out individual events and assign them to sound effects, and it works, which is even nicer. And we're going to keep on going. So here you go. That's all fine and dandy, but sometimes I want to have a sound effect that doesn't just play and then stop. For example, car engine sounds or music. Okay, if you have a car engine sound in a game, then you actually want to hear the engine sound continuously, not just fire it and then stop. So the engine sound really should play continuously and be controlled in that way. And so what XNA provides you with a way of doing is actually getting hold of a piece of playing sound and fiddling with it and making it loop round and play continuously and all that kind of good stuff as well. So the sound effects instance type lets me grab hold of a playing sound effect and do things with it. If I just call play, the sound effect just plays and then ends. If I make a sound effect instance, I can now start that sound effect playing, I can stop it, I can change the pitch, I can make it repeat, I can do all kinds of really interesting things. So I'm using this in my version of the program to allow me to have some music I can play and stop in the background, which kind of works. Here you can see that I've done something kind of interesting. When the program first starts off, we don't have an instance of the sound effect anywhere. And so I've done a little piece of programming trickery here, which is that I've created a variable called musicInstance, which will hold the instance of my playing sound effect, and I've set it equal to a thing called null. And null is a way of explicitly saying we ain't got one. There's nothing there. It's a flag that means it means nothing, but in a literal sense it really means there is nothing here. Okay, and so programs can check to see if something is null, and if that thing is null, they can make one. The word null has special meaning in the programs. It means that something is not there, that this particular box, this particular variable, has got nothing in it, nothing tied to it, and a program can test for null. If I try and use a variable set to null, then pretty much guaranteed my program is going to tip over. This is a bad thing, and my program will fail as a result. So what I do in my program is I effectively check to see if the sound effect instance is null, and then I make one. And this will all be controlled by the play button. The very first time I press the play button, I won't have a sound effect instance to control, so I'll have to make one. The second time I press it, okay, I can play the one that's already there. And so this means that my little algorithm, my little invention, my little behavior will look a little bit like this. The first time I press a play, create a sound effect instance. If the music's playing when the play button is pressed, pause the music. If the music's paused when the play button is pressed, resume it. I've got two its there. I'm sorry. I've got a surface. Excuse me. Wasn't that funny? I've got more its than I need. But if you can see what's going on here, then this is basically a little piece of logic which I've written down in English. The idea is that I want to press the start. If you've ever used an MP3 player, you'll know that quite often you can make it pause by pressing a button and make it resume playing by pressing the same button. That button's like a toggle, and I'm making the play button into that kind of toggle. Press it and the music starts if it's stopped, and stopped, and stops if it's playing. Okay, and the only bit of complication is that the very first time I press it, I don't actually have any sound effect playing at all. So here you go. This is Robert's code. If I have an instance of the sound effect, then this condition will actually be false. Okay, but if I don't get one, if I get a null back, then I must actually create an instance, and then at that point I'm in business. Okay, If I have an instance of this thing going, then I check to see what state it is. Now, sound effect instances tell me the state they've presently got. And if they're playing, they're playing. And if the state is not playing, it ain't playing. So here, if it's playing, we pause it. Oh, sorry, I'll go back. Oh, that didn't work at all. There we go. B, please. B should do it. No, B makes it go black. Okay, P then for previous. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, you've learned something. If I press B, the screen goes black. Oh, it's dark in here. Oh, scary. Press B again, it comes back. Wonderful. Didn't know that. That was frightening. Moving on. Yes, so if I've got it playing, I pause it, else I play it. And it's as simple as that. So now I can show you my music drum pad, and I can make this work just by going to here. Take a look. Now we've got all the same sound samples we had before, along with a sound sample called music. There it is. And if you look at my code down here, then there's the code that basically says if we haven't got any music, make an instance and start it. Call play to make an instance and then start it playing. If we have, then away we go. So if I hit go now, okay, I can do my drum thing, or I can press the play button and I can get my groovy music playing. Isn't that just amazing? If I press play again, it stops. If I press play again, it resumes. And if I press back, everything stops. So we've now got a way in which we can control sound playback. And so if you wanted to have like an engine sound, and if you do some digging around, you'll find there's some rather nice tricks you can play with sound effects instances to make them move to left and right, so you can pan them around the sound stage, and you can also make them speed up or slow down. You can change the pitch, which is kind of cute too. So those are both rather nice. Back to my slides, carrying on regardless. So what we know is that sound effects are content items managed in just the same way as images and fonts and all that stuff. But if you want to, we can put these things in folders to help organize where things are. Sound effect is the class that's used to play game sound effects, and the instance class is used to control the playback of a sound effect. And that's pretty much it. Okay, so quick true false, little quick true false, here you go. True or false, the Xbox 360 has standard sounds built in. Well, I might have, but I've never mentioned them and we can't use them, so that, I'm afraid, is false. The content manager looks after sound content. Well, since I've told you that's true, it must be true, so I'm going to get a green from there. You can show that a variable has not been set up yet by making it null. Again, I've told you that. It must be true. Bottom, next one down, the sound effect instance class lets you control the playback of a sound effect. Indeed it does. I reckon that's green. A lot of green today. It must be feeling very eco-friendly. And so finally, if it's one of these things, if there's been lots of truth about, the final one's bound to be a lie. XNA can only play one sound at once. Now, we've had it playing multiple sounds. That has so got to be wrong. And it is. So there you go, little review there. If you want to have a go at taking this further, your boss, what a nice chap he is, has had another idea, excuse me, for another drum machine, which plays rhythms, bumpty 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 bumpty, based on the gamepad, and he's actually got someone writing this, but unfortunately the developer has now got keyboard phobia, which is a terrible thing, and he now must enter his code wearing a blindfold. He's got a note from his mum that says this is the case, it must be true. So of course he's completely useless, and it's now down to you to finish it off. So as per usual, all the bits are on sillygames.com/screencasts, and you can go down there, pull down the unfinished program and the lab work, have a go at it, and see what colour smoke you get. And I hope you have fun with that, and I hope you'll join me for the next one too. Thank you very much.